that it's students who are learning, and the system has to engage them, their curiosity, their individuality, and their creativity. That's how you get them to learn. The second is that they attribute a very high status to the teaching profession. They recognize that you can't improve education if you don't pick great people to teach and if you don't keep giving them constant support and professional development. Investing in professional development is not a cost, it's an investment. And every other country that's succeeding well knows that.
That was Sir Ken. Can you join me paying a tribute to this beautiful person, Sir Ken Robinson, please? Thank you. So my last point here is, and I hope that there will be some time for your questions and comments. I want to hear from you as well what you have to think about, is about the way Finland trusts its teachers. And this, we had a conversation about it yesterday with some of the colleagues. And this is a tricky thing because you can't train people to trust one another. You can't do that. And if you go to Finland, whether it's about Oulu or Helsinki or Turku, wherever you go, and you ask the same question, people always tell you the same story, that it takes a long time to build trust, the culture of trust, and you can't just mandate. You can't have a policy that try to gain trust. You have to do certain things, and you have to invest in that. In Finland, we say, just like our Dutch sisters and brothers say, that trust arrives on foot, but it leaves on horseback. Trust arrives on foot, but it leaves on horseback, meaning that it takes a long time to build trust, but you can lose it very, very quickly. And this is what we are working on very hard in Finland not to do that. That's why Finland is not doing certain things now when things are going downhill, not to kind of hurt this culture of trust. It would be easy to the minister or ministry to issue certain things that all the schools have to do in terms of how to teach kids, but we know that if we do that, the trust will be gone very quickly, and it takes a decade or more to build it back. So that's the way we think. So this is one of those things that Finns and maybe all of you have thought about. And again, if we had more time here, and I think we spoke about this, Ashri, yesterday, is that we need to think again when we think about our students, who are they and what they are capable for. So if this was a workshop, I would stop here and say that let's work on this. What are your beliefs and your values and your assumptions when you think about your students, whatever they are? Because you have to, as an educator, you have to have some. You need to have research evidence and knowledge how to teach and what to do, but that alone doesn't make you a good teacher. You also need to have very well thought and considered values, assumptions, beliefs about what kids can do, how learning happens. That will inform your work, just like the theories and knowledge and research will do. Now, do you want me to share my 3 beliefs that I have? Now, it doesn't matter what you say because I'm going to do it anyway. And this is exactly what I said in my physics class. I don't care what you like or want, because PowerPoint is my master plan here. So the first one, and that sits really at the heart of my thinking. And I've been, these values have changed over time. I've been in education work for a long time, and they change, evolve, and kind of emerge in different ways. But right now, during the last 10 years, my basic belief has been that children or young people, students, have much greater capacity to do good things for themselves and others that we give them credit for. This is my driving belief, that we have this lost capacity that we spoke yesterday about in our schools, that we are not letting our kids, students, to do what they could do, because they have to do certain things first. So that's how I think. When I teach at the university, this is my starting point. That I understand that my students, when they come to my course, they have much more capacity to do amazing things than I often give them credit for. So it means that me as a teacher, I have to find ways how I can unleash this potential, how I can make my students feel that they can do, that I'm there almost like coaching them to do better and more of the things that they need to do. My second thing here is that freedom, and talking about students here, students' freedom to explore independently without adult control, whether it's a teacher or parent, is an important part of children's learning and well-being. You know, there are studies that show that big part of that declining mental health during the last 30 years that we have seen all around the world is not only correlation to the kind of a loss of freedom and independence that young people have, but the correlation is directional, meaning that the lack of independence, lack of freedom that kids have in school and home to do things, be in charge, do things by themselves, is driving them crazy. So that's my second thing. And third one is that children have right to play. Play is an important part of children's life. And children, for me, are anyone who is in school. All the way until you're 18, you're a child, according to the laws here and in Australia, everywhere. So play is an important thing. And what we adults have often done is that we have removed this time to play from children's lives, at homes and in our schools as well. So these are my 3 values and beliefs, and I invite you to think about what are yours. Think about it. And when you think about it, do something about it, because it helps you to not only do what you do, but it helps you also to answer this question that what can I do differently? And this is my couple of last slides here still about the trust. So I'm going to show you something that comes from the In Teachers We Trust book that I wrote a few years ago with my colleague Tim Walker. And you know, people have, when we work on this book and we're launching kind of speaking about the In Teachers We Trust in Finland, that is a story about the Finnish teachers, people were asking that why trust is important. So why do you write a book about that? So we had to really think about it, and I'm going to give you just 3 very quick responses that why trust is important, why we need to care about that. One is that it's when we have culture of trust, we have a better communication. When we have a culture of trust, it invites different people, including students and parents, the community and others, to get together and say what they want to say. It's a very, very important booster for more open and better communication. The second one is that when we have a culture of trust, like in Finnish schools, you can see much more risk-taking. Risk-taking here means that teachers are trying new things. And when teachers are trying new things, how to teach or how to organize learning, the kids will do the same. They will do what the teachers are doing. And you know, Sir Ken Robinson said something interesting. He said that if we are not preparing young people to be wrong, in other words, fail in these, when they take risks, they're never going to get done anything unique or anything new. So that's why the trust is needed for this risk-taking, creativity, innovation, all these things that we want to see more and more in our schools. No trust, no creativity, that's for sure. And finally, the culture of trust enhances what we call a collective responsibility. When we do things in the culture of trust, like in Finnish schools, people feel that we are all responsible for these common shared things that we do. If you don't have culture of trust, if you have a culture of betrayal or distrust, it means that if something happens to my colleague or in her class, I put my hands up and say, I have nothing to do with this, is not my issue, take care of that. So that doesn't happen in a culture of trust that is very evident in Finnish schools. And finally, this third Finnish edge is this collaborative professionalism. We can only cultivate trust when we truly build not just a teaching as a profession, but teaching as a collaborative profession. So we train our young people to collaborate from the first day of their initial teacher education all through their graduation. So here you can see the teachers' job satisfaction in the latest Tally study a couple of weeks ago. Again, you can see that Finnish teachers are there. So very much, 90% of Finnish teachers say that they're happy with their work. And remember, they have lighter working hours than others it may be related to as well. So to finish this up, this is my conclusion. Just couple of kind of wisdoms. Again, if this was a workshop, I would stop here and say that, so what do you conclude? How would you like to finish this up? Now, if you're working with the AI, you can use AI and say, what would be a kind of a nice finish to this story and presentation here? I'm not using AI, I'm just using myself. Now, I have two conclusions here, and then I'm done. I'm going to give you the right answers. The first one is, now when I think about all the things I've said, I can say something like this, that if our goal is a small improvement in student test scores, here or anywhere else, we may be heading in the right direction. But if our aim is that all students will become deep thinkers, creative learners, and active citizens, as we heard earlier this morning, for the future that is more uncertain than ever before, then these reforms will lead us astray. There's no way that these reforms that most countries have in place to improve, transform education would do this. This is my own conclusion. I leave it to you to judge. And finally, this is the last thing. I was thinking about this last night after all these conversations, and this is what I want to leave you with. That what if our answer to these education's global challenges that we have been hearing here and you've been reading about this before, lie not in a scaling up best practices. That we should not continue chasing best practices around the world. That's what I'm saying. But in trusting teachers, finding ways to how to build the trust in teachers and engaging our students as active agents in changing schools and making them better for the future. That's my own kind of a conclusion here. And I'm very happy if somebody here disagrees or thinks differently, that's fine, because in education we need dialogue and we need to debate. So that was my story. Did you find anything interesting there? Can you put your hand up if you thought that this was kind of a pretty cool thing? 3 people. 5. Let me ask you again, because I can't, my wife always asks me that, did people like what you had to say? So did you like what I had to say? Most of you. Okay, thank you so much. So what do you think about the first one? Over the past 15 years, there has been virtually no improvement in the learning outcomes in our city. Is it right or wrong? I can't hear you. It's true. Remember this graph, the 15 years, things are going backwards, okay? Second one, equity in education is best achieved by making sure that all students have equal opportunity to high-quality teaching. True or false? False. We can't achieve equity just by focusing on equal opportunity or equal access. It's part of that, but equity is much more. Yeah, you know, equal access, equal opportunity here means that we can bring all these kids to the fence, okay? So they have equal access to see the game. But if you happen to be a little kid, you can't see it. So we have to give them what they need, okay? So that's why. How about the last one? Finnish students have longer school days in the primary and lower secondary school than most of them. Yeah, that's wrong. Now, put your hand up if you have all 3 correct. All 3 correct. Put your hand up high. Okay. How about those who have 2 correct out of 3? Yeah, beautiful. How about 1 correct? Yeah, 1. Okay, I'm not going to ask the last question. You can keep it with yourself. Okay. Now, okay. Yeah. Terima kasih. Thank you very much. Thanks for your attention. Thank you.
And with that, let us give another warm round of applause to Professor Dr. Pasi Sahlberg for his inspiring presentation. And we hope that his insightful sharing has enriched our understanding of and expanded our perspectives on effective education systems, provided us with practical approaches to trust building, play-based learning, teacher leadership and education reform, as well as open doors for the future collaboration and research in higher education. And we are now to proceed with the Q&A session, as we will be opening to the members of the floor. If you have any questions that you wish to ask upon our speaker here, please come forward to the microphone.
Testing, okay. Hi, Dr. Pasi. I'm Lynn from the Ministry of Education. And I have the opportunity to visit Finland for 1 month. And basically, I stayed in Oulu for 3 weeks. And there are a lot of eye-opening moments there. And I basically can see how trust, equity, and well-being being manifest, and not just policy statements. So my questions, what will be your advice for countries like Malaysia to adapt the Finnish best practices, but since Malaysia were different in culture and administrative backgrounds? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for visiting my hometown, Oulu, in Finland. First of all, I think, as I said earlier in my talk, that I would probably avoid trying to think about how we can adapt some of these things or import some things in Finland. I'm sure that that's not what you're thinking here. But what you probably see that in Oulu. In some other places in Finland, you can see it more clearly that the schools now, in the Finnish schools, but also schools in places like California and Australia, some other places, are slowly turning into something that sometimes we use the term full service school or community hub. Are you familiar with that one? Because that's the idea, that the school is more than just a place where kids go and learn to read and write. That when the school is part of the community, that it's natural to integrate some of the services that they need for their well-being and health in that school, rather than telling kids who may have issues with health or well-being that there's another agency there down the road, you go there. So that's one of the future trends that I can see happening around the world. That when the school is not anymore a place for getting knowledge, kids don't need to go to school today anymore to get the knowledge or even learn to read and write. You can do those things if if you have a computer, you can do those things at home. But we need places for young people where they can go every day and also get help and support in their well-being and health, social development, and some other things. So that would be my advice to, the way to think differently about this thing is that how can we be part of that development here, where the schools would gradually begin to think about their own role, the purpose of schooling in a broader way. And in a way, this is a big part of the conversation about the purpose. Purpose, talking about what's the purpose of school, or young people say, what's the point of going to school, is a global thing. The people are having these conversations everywhere, in Australia, Finland, probably here as well, that what is the purpose? Because we know that the purpose is no longer just giving kids knowledge and skills. It's more about human development and particularly the well-being. So that would be my advice that you can see in many schools in Finland, in Oulu, and particularly places like Kokkola, that is about an hour and a half south from Oulu as well, that the schools will begin to care the whole child rather than just their knowledge or academic intelligence. Is this what you were asking? A little bit? Yeah, okay. Come and talk to me if you want to have a chat afterwards.
All right, thank you. Let's have the next question. Silakan.
Yeah, Assalamualaikum and a very good morning, everyone. Hi, Dr. Pasi. Really good to see you. So basically, all of us, I think the 6 of us, including Dr. Nolina, we just came back from Finland, which is from Oulu as well. And of course, thanks to Yayasan Khazanah for the scholarship that has been given to us. Round of applause for Yayasan Khazanah. All right, so basically, there are 3 questions that I would like to ask in relation to Finnish education system. The first, when we talk about trust, we are actually deeply inspired how trust defines every layers across system in Finland, from the national policy to the classroom. From your experience, what would be the first step for a system like Malaysia to be shifting from control to collaboration and growth to competition? That's the first. That is about trust, about what do we call shifting from control to collaboration and growth over competition. That's the first. Second, what we observe the most, how well-being is not treated as initiative or program in Finland, but since Malaysia is going to be to give emphasis on students' well-being, so from your experience, what are the key enablers for the policymakers to help institutionalize the well-being in Malaysia? That's the second. And the last one.
Let me, my memory is
Okay, sure, no problem.
Just stay there. I answer your trust question first.
Okay,
I mean,
good.
I think it's important, at least in my mind, to, when you think about trust, that trust is not a project, that it is a journey.
Okay.
It's something that you travel together with others. And again, unless you make investments, I'm not talking about money here. I'm talking about investing something that would give schools and teachers and principals an opportunity to build this trust. There's not going to be returns. So you need to invest in that. One of those things, next time here, and I think, Asri, you mentioned yesterday that there's a school-based assessment kind of an idea that schools would do more of the student assessment rather than just running the test. This may sound crazy, but something like this, that you need a concrete thing that you can kind of experiment in your schools, that I call an investment, and see how schools react and how they behave when this kind of a new culture starts to evolve. So what we did in Finland was that there was a number of things that we did in a similar way. For example, in 1994, we gave all the curriculum design work to schools. Crazy idea, absolutely ridiculous. And there were many people who said that this is going to create chaos and Finland is going to go downhill. But 80% of our schools and teachers and principals welcomed that and said that, so you trust us to do this thing? And we said, yes, we do, that you know this much better than we do. So find some concrete things that you can bring there. Your second question about well-being, I think the first thing actually that needs to be done by all of us here is that what is well-being? We need to talk about what it is. In many places that I have visited, in Australia, for example, well-being means that it's something that the schools do when kids have already lost that well-being, when they have trouble and issues and problems. But well-being in Finland, for example, is much more about early intervention and preventing this well-being thing. In other words, doing away many of those things that may cause ill-being for young people. So like this Australian example, remember that in Australia we are keeping kids in a classroom for 120 minutes and then give them morning tea that they don't drink and then bring them back for another 120 minutes. That is a kind of a structural ill-being built in the school. And what you can do in that system, what I try to do there, is to do away that one. Change that a little bit so that we do away some of these structural things that may cause, and often cause, kind of a declining well-being for young people. What's your third one?
All right, the third one, which leads to the last one, which is we think how the smart governance cycle that Finland has, for which we can see the ministry sets the direction, the goal, and then EduFi supports the implementation, and then FINEC evaluate primarily the whole thing. So from your experience, how can other countries can adapt that smart governance cycle. For example, in Malaysia, we have Jum'ah Nazir, for which like the school inspections and all that, for which FINEX is independent body which will govern everything, like for example, like evaluation and all that independently by helping the Ministry of Education and Culture Finland to make informed decision making when it comes to policy. What's your take on that?
Yeah, it's a great trust-related question again. And you know, if I use Finland example here, it's quite interesting. We had an inspection, kind of a state level in somebody from outside the school for 8 days and see how they run. In 1991, we did this away, the whole thing, like just abolished that one. And we turned the inspectors into advisors in a government. But then the schools, you know, some of the schools were saying that, so who will tell us now how we are going? And we said that, how about yourselves? So we turned this external inspection into kind of a self-inspection in the schools. Some of the schools say that, but we don't know how to do that. And we say that we can help you to you know, pair with another school. And you can find a way. We'll give you support to do that with another school. And this is a culture that we have now, that there's a lot of like a peer inspection going on, where schools are helping one another to improve and telling them one another, you know, how they're going. And it's a simple little thing that saved a lot of money from the country and build a massive amount of this culture of trust when schools realize that we don't need the state authority anymore to tell us how we are doing. What the legislation is saying now in Finland is that all the local governments are responsible to report when asked to the central government about the quality of school education. So they feel that they have to have data and information about how schools are going, but nobody's going to come and check that out or how it's done. Beautiful questions, by the way. Really good questions.
Thank you. Just the last one. All schools are good schools. What's your take on that? We have been heard about it in Finland very, very much. So it's like all schools are good schools.
Yeah, what do I think about that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you know, in Finnish way of saying that, it means that schools can be good in many different ways, because we don't have standardized assessments in our country, so we don't rank our schools. So schools will define themselves what is a good school. You know, school can be good if they have a really engaging program or curriculum, so that all the kids feel that, you know, the school is my favorite place to be. For some principals and teachers and parents, this is a good school. You're safe there, you like to be there, you like to learn, that they don't care about the outcome so much. Then there may be another school nearby. They say that we are the good school because all our kids learn literacy and numeracy and science or other things. So in Finland, we don't have this kind of a one metric for success. And that's why in Finland you hear exactly this thing, that every school is a good school. But they should also tell you that every school is a good school in their own way. And parents are quite comfortable in Finland to accept this one. That they don't, some parents do, that they want to know, obviously, how the schools do compared to other schools in reading and writing and those things. But these parents are a minority. But I like this idea that success of school success is really contextual. It depends on the school and the community and the kids and the teachers. Unlike in Australia, where good school, if you ask in Australia this thing about good school, you know, we have the national standardized assessments. You look at the league table and they say that this school is much better than the other one, without going even and see what they do. But thank you so much for your questions. I like those.
All right, thank you, Dr. Pasi. You're amazing.
All right, thank you. And we would proceed with the third question. Maybe we have the next candidate. Okay. Silakan.
Good morning, Dr. Pasi. Good morning. I'm EDD students, second years, education of doctorate students, second years. So I would like to ask the question about what are the most critical culture that Malaysia needs to transform from the crisis-oriented to the inspiring and curious and learning environment based on the Finland experience?
That's a really difficult one. Ashri, I think I need your help here a little bit. So what's the kind of a cultural thing, that's what you're asking? Yeah, you know, one thing I've learned in my travels around the world, that unless I know the country or the place very well, I don't like to give answers that may be completely ridiculous. But I think, you know, based on these conversations with some of the colleagues yesterday and today, that I think that, you know, if you want to find one element here that might make a difference along the way in Malaysia, I think that this, you know, thinking harder about this trust that I was talking about here, how can we build a culture of trust gradually in our schools and communities that would benefit all the children and teachers as well? And you remember I was saying that when we have more trust, the more trust you are able to build, more likely you can see people there in the school to do things differently. So that's, I think, I don't know exactly how to do that, but I think that that is the, that is probably one of those things. We often say, you know, I said it in my presentation as well, is that schools improve at the speed of trust. And for many people, it doesn't mean anything, but for me, it's a kind of a good metaphor that the more you can build trust, more likely you're going to see improvements in your schools. But again, one other thing is that building trust here in your country can be a very different thing and story that it was in Finland or some other places. But I do believe that in every place, every community, if we take this seriously and we have a good plan and good intention, we can make our communities and schools more kind of trustworthy, so to speak. So that's, if you insist me to say one thing, I would say this one.
Okay, thank you, Doctor.
Thank you for your question. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Professor, and also our guest just now. And we'll proceed with the fourth question, and it will be the last, maybe. Silakan.
Good morning, Prof. I'm a technologist Zuhelmi, and I have a question to you about the current era of AI. Let me see from the nail postman and our honor professor, Syed Muhammad Nakir Alatas, that tell us about the technology education. They have impact for our next generation. They have loss of adab, which is ethic. They have loss of identity. They have loss of skill and everything. And that is impact also influence our educator, academic staff, and some of them really doesn't know how to write a thesis, a journal, because of the technologies. So what you see on this situation? Because I'm very scared for the future generation.
Yeah, no, don't be scared. You work at the university here? Yeah, no, I mean, this is a scary time, but I'm scared of, much more scared of all the other things than AI or technology. I'm scared about the wars and these crazy leaders doing horrible things. I'm scared about the planet, that we are losing this planet as we have known it, and many other things. I'm scared about that we're losing our young people because of their health and situation. So that's, you know, the AI and technology is actually, I need to turn it into kind of a hopeful thing. So I can see that this is a huge opportunity now, right now we have, with the AI, that is accessible for everyone. But we need to be very smart and very careful in doing that. Now, here's the thing that you know probably as well as I do, is that young people are living with the AI and technology, whether we like it or not. They're going to do it at home, outside of the school. If we don't do it in the school in a way that will help them to understand this, things will go wrong. And then I think you have a good reason to be scared. You know, one little thing I do with my students and with my kids as well is that when they say that I'm using ChatGPT on this and that, I said, don't use ChatGPT, don't use Gen I, work with it. And you know, this is if you sit down and think about a little bit, what's the difference between using technology, using AI, or work with the AI? You know, if you start to work with the AI, it can improve you and your writing and your thinking and your mathematics and many other things much, much faster than any school can do. But kids don't know how to do that. My students don't know how to do that. How you work with the AI to write a better paper or better essay, or how you work with the AI so that it can help you to identify better problems. And this is where our opportunity is, that we can become better humans with working with the AI in a different ways. But technology is developing so quickly that what we have now, what we are using now, if you're using ChatGPT 5 that I do, or work with ChatGPT 5, that's the worst version of AI we're ever going to use. And that's a scary thing, that we have no idea what's going to be there next year or year after. But the young people will, they know how to do this. But if we don't kind of work with them and help them to do this, funny things going to happen. The worst thing we can do is to, like many universities have done, that we ban everything. Say you can't use any AI in your work, which is absolutely ridiculously crazy. We should do away those types of things and say that let's think about it and make sure that we can work with the technology and use it for enhancing and improving ourselves. It's not going to be easy, but if we find a way, it's going to give us a much more hopeful and better way in the future. What do you think about, can you take the mic and tell because I want to hear what you think about this.
Okay, the issue is, what I see is, from the data that I get from the independent researcher, because they use a Google Education, they have a decrease for science and math because they use the technology. Now our students cannot think so anymore, they just use the AI. Just because of that, we lost everything. So I'm scared about the future. Like Geoffrey Hinton say, what's next for our education? The AI will replace human or else?
Yeah, but AI is already doing this. Like if we ask in physics or mathematics or social sciences, the questions that we have been asking over the last 100 years, there's no way, AI will outperform all of us. In the latest, this year's International Mathematics Olympiads, you know that? That there's the best young people around the world compete in mathematics. And those are the real mathematicians. ChatGPT was able to find a solution to 6 out of 7, the hardest question in the competition, better than anybody else. So we are already there, that, if we're asking our kids to do things that AI can do, it doesn't make any sense. But, that's why for the teacher, you and I, the challenge is that how do we change the questions that we ask? Yeah. So that they, kids need to think about it. What I'm beginning to do in my university now is that I'm going back to the oral examinations. So I'm going to ask my students, you can work whatever device you want to use. I help them to identify the problem, the question, and then you go and work on that. But then you come to me and we have a half-an-hour conversation based on what you wrote and what you think it is. And that is the way to go if we want to really make sure that the kids are learning more. Okay. But just by, that's why I'm saying that the old school we have everywhere was not designed for the AI. So there's no way that we can implement AI in a current school system. We have to change the schools and then see how the AI can support us to do that. What do you think? All right?
Yes, correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, and with that, the ending of the Q&A session, and we shall now proceed with the presentation of the Global Educator Award. And now we would like to call upon the distinguished guest to come on stage for the presentation of the Teacher Educator Award to Professor Dr. Pasi Sahlberg. Without further ado, please welcome.
Professor Sahlberg believes that meaningful education reform begins not with control, but with trust. It values equity over competition, teacher professionalism over testing, and well-being over pressure. These transformative principles form the Finnish edge, an approach where every child learns with curiosity, confidence, and joy.
1 cake for the cameraman, 1 cake for me, and 2 coffees. How much is it?
€2 and 60 cents.
Once again, a give round of applause to the montage video. And we would like to invite our fellow distinguished guests and also Dr. Fasi to be on the center stage. And we would proceed with the presentation of the Teacher Educator Award to Professor Dr. Fasi Sahlberg. And with that, we'd like to thank you, everybody on stage, and please, you're invited to be at your seats. Thank you. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, this event has come to an end. Let us now prepare for the ceremonial exit of our esteemed guest. And I would like to thank everyone here for this event and the continuous support in youth future leaders development. And on behalf of the organizing committee, I would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude for your unwavering support and commitment in making this event a success. Tanam lenggun tumbuh kelapa, terbit bunga di atas titi. Budi semua kami tak lupa, sudah terpaku di dalam hi. And with that, thank you. And until then, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.